Disclaimer: this is a fictional, humorous sci-fi story. It does not depict real-world events or encourage any dangerous activities. All content is intended for entertainment purposes only. Imagine a place so extreme, so unforgiving, that even the bravest civilizations classify it as extreme environment. Now imagine choosing to vacation there for fun. Welcome to Earth through alien eyes. Welcome, esteemed guests, to Earth's premier relaxation resort. Tour guide. Zarn's voice modulator quivered with what he hoped was an appropriate amount of enthusiasm. His antennae twitched nervously as he faced the group of 15 wealthy alien tourists, all safely encased in their Class 3 environmental suits. As your Galactic Tourism Bureau representative, I must remind you that Earth is classified as the extreme environment. However, I assure you that all necessary safety precautions have been taken. The resort's landing pad, situated on the big island of Hawaii, stretched before them like a gleaming mirror under the harsh solar radiation. Zarn consulted his atmospheric readings for the 8th time in as many minutes. The numbers still made him queasy. 1 standard gravity barbaric, 21% oxygen explosive, and temperatures hovering around 30 degrees Celsius, practically molten. Tour guide Zarn called out Duchess Kryla of the Centauri Pleasure Worlds, her environmental suit sparkling with embedded precious stones. "Are you absolutely certain these humans actually come here to relax? The gravitational pull alone is enough to compress one's thorax cavity." Yes, quite certain," Zarn responded, trying to keep his 4th heart from palpitating too obviously. In fact, humans consider this one of their most serene locations. They call it paradise. A sudden gust of wind carried a spray of microscopic water particles toward the group, causing several tourists to shriek and activate their emergency shield protocols. Their suits sparkled with defensive energy, creating a light show that would have put a stellar nursery to shame. "Contamination alert! Contamination alert!" screamed Scholar Varn Quen, the most senior member of their group. His suit's warning system blared out in 7 different languages before he managed to silence it. That was dihydrogen monoxide. The humans actually let that caustic substance float freely in their atmosphere. Zarn raised all 4 of his appendages in what he hoped was a calming gesture. "Please remain calm. This is perfectly normal for Earth. The humans actually need regular exposure to H2O to survive. They're composed of approximately 60% water themselves." This revelation caused Duchess Kryla to faint, her crystalline suit tinkling melodiously as her personal medical drone rushed to assist her. "But fear not," Zarn continued, his voice rising an octave in desperation. "The resort has been fully equipped with emergency decontamination chambers, gravity regulators, and atmosphere purifiers in all guest quarters. Though, I should mention..." He paused, checking his tourist manual. "The humans insisted we keep all these safety features to a minimum to maintain what they call an authentic experience." The group huddled closer together as a large white bird, a seagull, according to Zarn's species identifier, swooped overhead. Several tourists activated their personal force fields, creating a rainbow-like dome over the landing pad. "Now if you'll follow me," Zarn gestured toward the resort's entrance. "Our human guide will be meeting us shortly to begin our relaxation adventure. Remember, they consider this fun, so please try to maintain appropriate diplomatic responses, regardless of any shock or horror you may experience." As they walked, Scholar Varn Quen's voice crackled over the group's shared communication channel. Did anyone else notice that the ground is covered in billions of deceased microorganisms? He pointed a trembling appendage at the sand. We're walking on a mass grave of ancient calcium carbonate life forms. Those are seashells, Professor Zarn explained wearily. And yes, the humans deliberately choose to build their relaxation centers next to these organic remnants. They find it peaceful. Up. The group shuffled forward, their environmental suits whirring and beeping in protest against Earth's hostile conditions. Zarn checked his itinerary and felt his chromatophores pale considerably. Coming up next, meeting their human guide and something called a welcome cocktail. He hadn't had the heart to tell them yet that humans actually ingested dihydrogen monoxide for pleasure. Looking at his group of terrified tourists, Zarn wondered, not for the first time, if he should have taken that nice, safe job giving virtual tours of black holes instead. The automated doors of the resort whooshed open, and Zarn's entire tourist group collectively gasped. There, standing before them without any protective equipment whatsoever, was their human guide. Her bare skin was exposed to the elements, protected by nothing more than a thin layer of fabric that the humans called a tank top and shorts. Hey there, space friends. I'm Lin Kaori, your relaxation specialist for the week. Her voice boomed with enthusiasm that made several of the aliens' sensor arrays crackle with feedback. Welcome to the best chill-out spot this side of the Milky Way. Scholar Varn Quen's suit sensors went haywire. Fascinating. The human appears to be maintaining structural integrity despite the crushing gravitational forces. And look, she's moving without any mechanical assistance. Lin bounced on her toes, causing more sensor alerts to blare throughout the group. So who's ready to unwind, Earth style? Duchess Kryla, who had barely recovered from her earlier fainting spell, activated her suit's magnification features to study Lin more closely. Tour guide. Zarn, she whispered over their private channel. The creature is releasing water vapor through its external membrane. Is it melting? That's just sweat, my lady. Zarn explained hastily. It's a natural cooling mechanism. Natural? Natural? Duchess Kryla's voice rose to a pitch that threatened to shatter her suit's audio processors. You mean they just leak water constantly? Lin, oblivious to their horror, pulled out what appeared to be a primitive data tablet. Okay, folks, let's go over today's relaxation itinerary. First up, we'll start with something super gentle. Just a nice morning surf session to get our blood pumping. Blood pumping, Scholar Varn Quen muttered, frantically taking notes. They deliberately agitate their circulatory fluid for entertainment. Now, I know what you're thinking, Lin continued, grinning broadly enough to display her bone-white teeth, a sight that caused 3 of the younger tourists to activate their emergency beacons. But trust me, once you catch your first wave, you'll be hooked. Hooked? Zarn's translator struggled with the idiom. Like with fishing equipment? Lin laughed, a sound that their suit's threat detection systems categorized somewhere between a solar flare and a small supernova. It's just an expression. Speaking of which, has anyone explained Earth expressions to our guests? No? Oh boy, this is going to be fun. She started walking backward, gesturing for the group to follow her. The aliens watched in amazement as she navigated the resort's corridor while facing them, seemingly unconcerned about potential collisions. The human's spatial awareness is remarkable, Scholar Varn Quen commented, adding to his ever-growing notes, perhaps a result of evolving on an extreme environment. Before we hit the waves, Lin said, stopping at a bar area, let's all grab some refreshments. Nothing says relaxation like a nice cold pina colada. The tourists watched in horror as Lynn approached a container filled with various liquid substances. Zarn quickly consulted his manual. "Ah, yes," he announced to the group. "This is a traditional Earth relaxation ritual. They consume specific chemical combinations that temporarily alter their consciousness for pleasure. They willingly ingest consciousness-altering substances for fun." Duchess Kryla swayed challengeously in her suit again. "Don't worry," Sarah said, mixing drinks with practiced efficiency. "These are virgin cocktails, no alcohol, though I've got to say, you guys are missing out on half the fun." As Sarah distributed the drinks through their suits' sterilized intake ports, Zarn noticed Scholar Varn Quen frantically transmitting data back to his home world. The message header read, "Urgent update, humans." Significantly more fascinating than previously documented. Watching Sarah demonstrate how to use a drinking straw, just poke it right through the top. Zarn couldn't help but agree with the professor's assessment, and they hadn't even gotten to the surfing part yet. "All right, Space Squad, time for some aquatic fun," Sarah announced, leading her trembling group of alien tourists toward the beach. She hefted a surfboard under one arm as casually as if it were a feather, a display of strength that sent Scholar Varn Quen into another frantic note-taking frenzy. The human carries carbon fiber recreational equipment with one limb, remarkable load-bearing capabilities, he muttered into his recorder. Zarn checked his safety protocols for the 100th time. "Now, honored guests, please ensure your hydrophobic force fields are at maximum power. We're about to approach the He gulped, checking his translator. "The Pacific Ocean." "Look at those sweet waves." Sarah pointed at what appeared to be liquid mountains rolling toward the shore. "Perfect 5-footers today. Great for beginners." Lady Zaxix's suit sensors began blaring again. 5 feet? 5 feet? That's taller than 3 Centaurians stacked on top of each other. Surely you jest." "Oh no, these are pretty small, actually," Sarah said with a laugh. "You should see the winter swells. Now those are waves." The group watched in stunned silence as Sarah jogged straight into the water, her surfboard trailing behind her. No protection, no environmental suit, no gravity stabilizers, just bare skin against the savage dihydrogen monoxide. The human female appears immune to the caustic effects of the solution. Scholar Varn Quen's voice had risen to a near shriek. "And observe, she's willingly submerging herself in a solution of sodium chloride, the same compound we use to destroy harmful bacteria." Bidol, Sarah's head popped up from beneath a wave. "Come on in, guys. The water's perfect. Perfect for molecular dissolution, perhaps," muttered one of the younger tourists who had been unusually quiet until now. Zarn's manifest identified him as Junior Ambassador Envoy Nilo from the Silicon Harmonies. His crystalline structure made him particularly vulnerable to water exposure. "Your suits are totally waterproof," Sarah called out encouragingly. "Promise you won't dissolve." "That's not as reassuring as she thinks it is," Zarn mumbled to himself before addressing the group. "Right then, who would like to volunteer to be the first to... Before he could finish, a massive wave crashed against the shore, sending spray high into the air. The entire group scrambled backward, their suits' warning systems creating a cacophony of alerts and alarms. "Massive hydrokinetic event," screamed someone's suit computer. "Corrosive substance approaching. Danger, danger, danger." Sarah, meanwhile, had paddled out further into the ocean, seemingly oblivious to the chaos on shore. They watched in horror as she positioned herself to face an oncoming wave. Is Is she going to attempt to escape? Lady Zaxix asked hopefully. No, Zarn replied grimly, consulting his tourism guide. She's going to try to catch it. The aliens watched, transfixed, as Sarah paddled toward the incoming wall of water. With a grace that seemed to defy their understanding of physics, she popped up onto her board and began gliding along the wave's surface. Woo-hoo! Sarah's cheer echoed across the beach as she carved through the water. Impossible, Scholar Varn Quen exclaimed. She's manipulating gravitational forces without any technological assistance. Actually, Zarn began, reading from his guide. It's more about hydrodynamics and balance. Look out, several tourists screamed as Sarah deliberately steered herself into the curling part of the wave, disappearing momentarily before emerging from the other side, still standing on her board. That was totally tubular, Sarah shouted, paddling back to shore. Her hair was dripping with corrosive ocean water, her skin glistening with salt spray, and her smile was wider than ever. Who wants to try next? There was a long moment of silence, broken only by the sound of waves crashing and environmental suit fans working overtime to combat stress-induced heat generation. Finally, to everyone's surprise, Junior Ambassador Envoy Nalo stepped forward. I volunteer, he said, his crystalline voice quavering slightly. Envoy Nalo, no, Lady Zaxix gasped. Think of your molecular structure. That's the spirit, Sarah beamed, already grabbing another surfboard. Don't worry, we'll start in the shallow water. As Sarah began explaining surfing basics to the terrified but determined Envoy Nilo, Zarn overheard Scholar Varn Quen making another transmission. Update to previous report, humans don't just survive their extreme environment. They turn its most hostile elements into entertainment, requesting immediate review of Earth's environmental assessment. Lady Zaxix sidled up to Zarn, her suit sparkling anxiously. Tour guide Zarn, she whispered. Please tell me this is the most challengeous relaxation activity on our itinerary. Zarn thought about the skydiving session scheduled for later in the week and decided some information was better left unshared. Let's just focus on enjoying the current activity, shall we? Out in the water, Sarah was demonstrating how to pop up on the surfboard, while Envoy Nilo's environmental suit struggled to process the concept of voluntary instability. That's it, Sarah encouraged. Now you just need to catch a wave. Catch a wave? Envoy Nilo repeated nervously. Right, simple. Just deliberately place myself in the path of a moving liquid wall for fun, because that's what we're doing here, having fun. So much fun. A smaller wave approached, and Sarah's voice rang out. Okay, Envoy Nilo, this is your wave. Paddle, 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 paddle. The assembled tourists watched in horrified fascination as their fellow traveler, a being made primarily of crystalline silicon, attempted to ride a wave of corrosive Earth ocean. The results were memorable. After the surfing adventure, which ended with Junior Ambassador Envoy Nilo declaring himself a wave warrior despite his suit requiring 3 rounds of emergency decontamination, Sarah led the group to what she called the spa area. Now this, she announced cheerfully, is where the real relaxation begins. The aliens peered through a glass window into a room where a human lay face down on a padded table, while another human placed dark objects along their spine. Those are heated basalt stones, Sarah explained proudly. We warm them up and put them on your back. Super relaxing. Scholar Varn Quen's sensors went berserk. The specimen is being subjected to heated igneous rocks. Is this some form of torture? What? No, Sarah laughed. The heat helps relax your muscles. Here, let me demonstrate the temperature. She picked up one of the stones, its surface gleaming. Thermal weapon detected, screeched Lady Zaxix's suit computer. 3 personal force fields, activated simultaneously. It's only about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, Sarah said soothingly. Only, Zarn's voice modulator cracked. That's nearly half the temperature required for molecular breakdown in several of our species. Look how peaceful that human looks. Sarah pointed to the person on the table, who had started softly snoring. They're literally paying us to put hot rocks on them. Scholar Von Quen's recording device whirred frantically. Humans exchange currency for the privilege of being pressed with heated minerals. Possible masochistic cultural ritual. And that's not even the best part. Sarah continued, leading them toward another door. Next stop, the sauna. She opened the door to reveal a wooden room filled with steam. The temperature reading that flashed across their suit displays caused several tourists to back away rapidly. You intentionally trap yourselves in a superheated enclosure. Junior Ambassador Envoy Nilo asked, his crystalline structure vibrating with anxiety. Oh yeah, it's amazing. Really gets the toxins out, Sarah said. We even pour water over hot stones to create more steam. They willingly increase the humidity and temperature. Lady Zazex swayed challengeously. Voluntary heat death. They seek intense thermal relaxation. No one's dying, Sarah assured them, though you might want to remove your suits to get the full effect. Negative. 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 The group's unified response was deafening. Okay. Suits can stay on, but wait until you see the mud baths. Zarn checked his itinerary and felt his chromatophores go completely white. The what? Sarah led them to yet another room, where several humans were submerged in dark, thick liquid. Is that planetary excrement? Scholar Von Quen asked weakly. No, just mineral-rich mud. Great for your skin. Sarah dipped her hand into one of the empty tubs and let the mud drip through her fingers. We call this getting down and dirty. They're willingly coating themselves in geological waste material, Scholar Von Quen whispered, his note-taking now so rapid that his recorder was smoking slightly. And they're smiling while doing it. Indeed, the humans in the mud baths looked utterly content, some wearing strange green paste on their faces and cucumber slices over their eyes. Why have they placed salad components on their visual organs? Lady Zazex asked, genuinely puzzled. It reduces puffiness, Sarah explained cheerfully. Anyone want to try? The mud is nice and warm. The group collectively backed away, their suits humming with protective energy. Come on, guys. Where's that wave warrior spirit? Sarah looked hopefully at Envoy Nilo, who had been so brave during surfing. Envoy Nilo's crystalline surface flickered anxiously. I believe I reached my daily quota of Earth-style relaxation during the surfing incident. My structure is still recalibrating from the sodium chloride exposure. Well, how about you, Professor? For science, Sarah suggested. Scholar Von Quen's recording device finally overheated and shut down with a sad whir. I believe I have gathered sufficient data on human relaxation techniques for today. Tour guide Zarn, Lady Zazex whispered through their private channel. I thought you said this was a relaxation resort. This appears to be some form of endurance testing facility. Before Zarn could respond, Sarah clapped her hands together. Well, if no one's up for the mud bath, we could head to the steam room instead, or maybe try some hot yoga. Oh, or there's this great treatment where tiny fish eat the dead skin off your feet. The sound of 15 environmental suits simultaneously engaging emergency protocols drowned out the rest of her suggestions. Sarah looked around at the panicking aliens with a slightly puzzled expression. Tough crowd, huh? Well, no worries. Wait until you see what I've got planned for tomorrow. Ever heard of something called skydiving? Zarn quickly calculated the cost of breaking his tourism contract versus the potential therapy bills for traumatized aliens. The math was not encouraging. Perhaps, he suggested weakly, we should break for lunch. Something nice and safe like volcano-roasted coffee, Sarah exclaimed excitedly. You guys are going to love it. The thud of Lady Zazek's fainting in her environmental suit echoed through the spa area, barely audible over the continuing chorus of safety alarms. Alarm blaring. Today's the big day. Sarah's voice rang out across the resort's private airfield, where a small aircraft waited on the runway. Who's ready for the ultimate relaxation experience? The alien tourists huddled together, their environmental suits creating a symphony of warning beeps as they processed the situation. They'd survived surfing, endured the spa treatments, and even managed to cope with watching Sarah consume volcano-roasted beverages. But this was something else entirely. You expect us to exit a perfectly functional aircraft. Scholar Varn Quen's voice had risen to a pitch that threatened to shatter nearby windows. While it's still in flight? That's the whole point. Sarah beamed, already suited up in her skydiving gear. Nothing says relaxation like free-falling through the atmosphere at high-speed descent. Terminal velocity? Lady Zazek's suit, automated stabilizers kicked in to prevent another fainting spell. The humans named it high-speed descent, and they still do it for fun. Zarn frantically consulted his tourism manual, hoping to find some clause that would prevent this madness. Surely this violates some safety protocol. Don't worry. Sarah patted the stack of parachutes beside her. We've got backup parachutes for backup parachutes. Safety first. The human's definition of safety appears to be fundamentally flawed, Scholar Varn Quen muttered, adding to his replacement recording device. The original had never recovered from the spa incident. Sarah started distributing specialized environmental SWAT attachments designed to work with the parachutes. We'll be jumping from about 14,000 feet. That gives us about 60 seconds of free fall before we pull the chutes. 60 seconds of uncontrolled atmospheric descent. The group's unified shriek of horror scattered a flock of nearby birds. Well, not completely uncontrolled, Sarah explained, demonstrating spread eagle positioning. You can actually maneuver quite a bit in free fall. Watch this video. She held up her tablet, showing footage of skydivers performing elaborate aerial maneuvers. The aliens watched in horrified fascination as humans deliberately spun, flipped, and barrel-rolled through the air. They're treating atmospheric friction as a playground, Scholar Varn Quen whispered, his recording device smoking again. The same atmosphere that requires our suits to maintain triple-layered protection. And check this out. Sarah switched to another video showing formation skydiving. We can even hold hands and make shapes. They engage in social bonding activities while plummeting towards certain death. Lady Zazek observed faintly. Truly there is no limit to their madness. Junior Ambassador Envoy Nilo, who had been unusually quiet since his surfing adventure, suddenly spoke up. What's the statistical likelihood of survival? Sarah turned to him with an encouraging smile. Oh, skydiving is actually super safe. The odds of anything going wrong are like 1 in... Stop! Zarn interrupted desperately. Please don't finish that sentence. Some of our guests have sensitive probability processors. But Envoy Nalo persisted. And humans do this for relaxation. Nothing makes you feel more alive than falling through the sky, Sarah said, enthusiastically. Plus, the view is absolutely incredible. You can see the whole island. The view of the rapidly approaching ground, you mean, muttered one of the other tourists. I want to try it. The declaration came from Envoy Nilo, causing every alien head to turn toward him so fast their suit stabilizers triggered multiple proximity warnings. Envoy Nilo, no, Duchess Kryla gasped. First the surfing, now this? Think of your crystalline structure. I've been thinking, Envoy Nilo said, his voice growing stronger. We've seen humans survive crushing gravity, corrosive water, heated rocks, and voluntary steam chambers. If they can do all that, why can't we? Our suits are technically more advanced. That's the spirit. Sarah clapped her hands excitedly. Anyone else want to join the adventure? The rest of the group backed away so quickly they nearly fell over each other. Very well. Envoy Nilo straightened up, his crystalline structure gleaming with determination. I, Junior Ambassador Envoy Nilo of the Silicon Harmonies, will experience this skydiving relaxation technique. Whoa. What followed was the most thorough safety briefing in the history of Earth tourism. Sarah went through every detail 3 times, while Zarn triple-checked every connection between Envoy Nilo's environmental suit and the parachute system. Finally, they were ready. The small plane carried them up to jumping altitude, its cabin filled with the sound of various alien suit alarms reacting to the change in pressure. Remember, Sarah shouted over the engine noise, after you exit, count to 5, then spread your arms and legs like we practiced. Exit the aircraft. Envoy Nilo's voice wavered slightly. Right. Simple, just like catching a wave. Except the wave is the planet's atmosphere, and I'm catching it with my entire body from very, very high up. The door opened, and the rush of wind caused every suit sensor in the cabin to go haywire. Ready? Sarah grinned, standing at the door. On 3. 1. Wait, Scholar Von Quen called out. I need to adjust my recording equipment to capture this moment for scientific. 2. Perhaps we should double-check the atmospheric density calculations, Zarn suggested, nervously. 3. Sarah leaped out with a whoop of joy. After a moment's hesitation that felt like several eternities, Envoy Nilo followed. The remaining tourists crowded around the plane's windows, watching in amazement as the 2 figures plummeted through the sky. Their suit sensors picked up Envoy Nilo's initial scream, which gradually transformed into something that sounded suspiciously like laughter. The human was right. Envoy Nilo's voice crackled over their shared communication channel. The view is incredible. I can see the entire water-covered surface where we attempted surfing, and the steam torture chamber and... Oh, my atomic structure. We're going so fast. They watched as Sarah and Envoy Nilo deployed their parachutes, floating gently down to the designated landing area where a small crowd had gathered to watch the spectacle. When Envoy Nilo's feet touched the ground, his suit immediately began running contamination checks, but he ignored the warnings and turned to Sarah, with his crystal structure glowing brightly. That was amazing. Can we do it again? That's what I'm talking about. Sarah high-fived Envoy Nilo's suit-covered hand. See? This is what Earth-style relaxation is all about. Back in the plane, Scholar Von Quen made his final recording of the day. Conclusion. Humans have not merely adapted to their extreme environment, they have mastered it so completely that they now use its most lethal aspects as entertainment. Request immediate update to all human psychological profiles. They are far more fascinating than previously suspected. Duchess Kryla, watching Envoy Nilo's excited gesticulations below, sighed heavily. Tour guide Zarn, I believe you're going to need to schedule another trip next year. It seems some of us are developing a taste for human relaxation techniques. Zarn looked at his tourism manual, then at the excited human and alien duo below, and finally at his contract. Perhaps, he said thoughtfully, I should invest in better insurance. The last day of the Earth Relaxation Resort tour found the alien tourists gathered in the lobby, their environmental suits significantly more scuffed and weathered than when they'd arrived. The resort's decontamination team was still trying to get the last traces of mud out of Duchess Kryla's crystalline force field generators. Well, folks, Sarah said, beaming at her battered but somehow transformed group, I hope you all found our Earth-style relaxation techniques refreshing. Scholar Varn Quen's recording device, now held together with emergency repair tape, word one last time. Final observation. Humans appear to have redefined the word relaxation to mean controlled brush with death. Oh, come on. Professor Envoy Nilo bounced excitedly in his suit, which now sported several I survived Earth stickers Sarah had given him. You have to admit, after falling through the atmosphere at high-speed descent, your regular meditation chamber back home will feel pretty boring. That's precisely what concerns me, Duchess Kryla muttered, but there was an unmistakable note of admiration in her voice. To think we once believed humans were simply stubborn for surviving on their extreme environment. Now we know they're actually enjoying it. Sarah started distributing digital brochures. Next year's package includes bungee jumping, whitewater rafting, and for our more adventurous guests, something called volcano boarding. Recreational activities involving active geological hazards. Scholar Varn Quen's suit, sensors, sparked with interest despite themselves. Fascinating. Purely for research purposes, of course. Sign me up, Envoy Nilo declared, his crystalline structure gleaming with excitement. My structural integrity can handle it. Zarn watched as one by one, nearly every tourist in the group began booking slots for next year's extreme relaxation tour. Even Duchess Kryla, after ensuring her insurance policy covered voluntary engagement with lethal planetary features, reserved a spot. You know, Sarah said, wrapping an arm around Zarn's environmental suit, I think we really helped expand their horizons. Your species might want to reconsider classifying Earth as the extreme environment. Oh no, Zarn replied, watching Envoy Nilo demonstrate his new surf posture to an amazed group of fellow tourists. Earth is definitely still an extreme environment. We've just discovered that extreme environments can be fun. That's the spirit. Sarah grinned. Just wait until I tell you about winter sports. As the group prepared to board their space shuttle, Scholar Varn Quen made one final transmission to his research center. Update complete. Humans are not merely surviving their extreme environment. They have turned survival into an art form, challenge into entertainment, fear into recreation. Most fascinating of all, they appear to be contagious, requesting immediate funding for extended research trip next year. For science, of course, not because I want to try this volcano boarding. End transmission. Watching his group depart, Zarn realized something had fundamentally changed. They'd arrived as tourists, seeking relaxation, and were leaving as adventurers. Maybe, he thought, that was the real secret of Earth's relaxation techniques. They didn't just help you unwind, they helped you discover your inner extreme environmenter. He looked at his own booking confirmation for next year's tour and smiled. Perhaps it was time to upgrade his environmental suit's thrill-seeking capabilities.